Have you ever started something only to realize that it's going to take way too much time and effort to complete, and what you get out of it is already available from other sources for relatively much less work? That's why I'm announcing an end. An end to trying to code the dynamic suspension simulation. I could easily spend half a year working on that if I wanted to, and I'll get much worse results than if I were to just use a tool that's already available. So while I was staring in horror at this absolutely disgusting derivative, race software started to look pretty dang appealing. Half a year or more of pain versus $160 a month? You betcha I'd rather pay $160 per month there, bud. So while I learn how to use race software, I need to gather all the important information for design and suspension. And by that, I mean figuring out where the suspension cannot go. What would interfere with suspension, though? Oh, right, hubs. A wheel hub assembly is the part of the car that attaches the non-spinning part of the car to the spinning part of the car. The wheel hub assembly has two bearings that the wheel rotates on, and usually has a sensor used for the anti-lock braking system, which I am planning to incorporate too. Now, let me just type in wheel hub, hit search, and looks like I found a hub. Easy. Wait, how do I know that this will work? I suppose I should check that it would work with the rim that I found. Looks like this rim has a 5x5 inch bolt pattern, and this hub does not have a 5x5 bolt pattern. Cool. So, after looking around, I found this hub, which has a 5x5 bolt pattern, and is for a Jeep Wrangler. That's actually perfect, as Jeeps are commonly used for off-roading, and I'm going to be doing some sick off-roading. So I can be confident that this shouldn't break. Hopefully. Nothing else interferes with suspension, right? Brakes? Pfft, who needs those? Cars are made to go fast, not slow down. Let's move on. How do doors interfere with suspension? Well, you're the one introducing the topics. Why are you putting this on me? Okay. Before this gets any more off the rails, let's actually talk about brakes. If you want a history of brakes, you can go watch Super Fast Matt. I want to discuss some of the more different options available today. For those who don't know much about cars, the brakes almost always sit here between the hub and the rim. Brakes work by turning kinetic energy into heat, thus slowing down the car. For this suspension setup, we want to make sure that the brakes will not interfere with the rim and that they will not interfere with these 2 points on the suspension. As for the specific brakes I could choose, there are many options. The first option is to go with the standard brakes that come on a Jeep. The stock rotors do great for daily driving, but on a track where the brakes heat up a lot more than in standard driving due to cornering, these simply won't do. This is where vented, slotted, and drilled rotors come in. Vented rotors have slots beneath the rotor face. These slots pull air from the center and fling it out to the end to better cool the rotor. Slotted rotors have a small channel in the face so that when it passes by the brake pad, it cleans the surface, preventing buildup of dust and keeping the surface of the pad flat. This gives better braking performance. Then there are drilled rotors. Now, I'm sure that there are some that will disagree with me, but drilled rotors do absolutely nothing. Marketing schemes say that it helps to cool the brake pads better, but it's a gimmick. They initially came out because asbestos brake pads created a lot of gas when braking, and these holes were added to help get rid of the gas. Asbestos pads are quite rare these days, and there are no other pads that have significant gas problems. They are simply around because they look cooler, and they make brake companies more money by charging more for them. Then there are brake pads. The main types of pads are organic, hybrid, semi-metallic, and ceramic. Organic pads are standard from most car manufacturers. These pads are relatively inexpensive, have moderate longevity, but they produce a lot of dust. This dust comes from the pad being worn away during braking. Hybrid pads are organic pads but with a few extra things added. This makes them a bit more expensive, but they have a lot less dust and can last about as long. Some semi-metallic pads include more metal in the pads, increasing their stopping power significantly, but at the price of being much more noisy and being much harder on the brake rotors. Then ceramic pads are, as you expect, made from ceramic. They are a bit more costly, however they produce very little dust and noise while having great longevity. Finally, I can choose from fixed or floating calipers. Calipers are what push the pad against the rotor to slow it down. Floating calipers have the caliper able to slide on 2 bolts, and as one side comes into contact with the rotor, the other side gets pulled to the rotor. These calipers only have pistons on one side, so they are less complex and cheaper. However, because they move, they have more compliance and wear faster. Then fixed calipers have pistons on both sides of the caliper, and the entire caliper is mounted. Then both pads are pushed towards the rotor. As you would expect, these are more complex and expensive, but less compliance and last longer. Now, with that explanation out of the way, the specific brake pads I'm going to use are these. These are power stop brakes meant for a Jeep Wrangler, so it should be compatible with the hub. These have drilled and slotted rotors, ceramic pads, and floating calipers. Now, I know that the drilled rotors do nothing, but why I'm getting these is because I cannot find any other kits like this with only slotted rotors for this good of a price. And while I generally don't like getting things that are marketed as doing something when they actually don't, the price is right for this, so I won't complain too much. Now, these will do great for while the car is in motion. However, when I need to park the vehicle, I need the brake to stay on. Short of keeping my foot on the brake and sitting in the car until I need to use it next, I need to do something else. While I could do something like making the ABS system keep the brakes on while parked, or installing a solenoid into the brake line to keep pressure while parked, these make me very nervous, as adding something like this is another point of failure to the brakes, which are the most important safety system on the car. So instead, I'm going to do what most car manufacturers do and add another caliper just for the parking brakes. Unfortunately, the kit does not come with this caliper, so I will need to get it from a different source. I could use a parking brake from a Jeep Wrangler, as it should work with a rotor. These brakes actually sit on the inside of the rotor. However, this brake is not electronically actuated, whereas there are others that are. And I want to use an electronically actuated parking brake, as it would be fairly straightforward to implement and have the parking brake apply itself when the car is put into park. I found this caliper from a 2019 Mercedes CLA 250 that is both electronically and hydraulically actuated. The rotors on this car are the same thickness as the ones in this kit. However, the diameters are slightly off. The outside diameter on this rotor is 295 millimeters, while the kit has the rear rotors being 315 millimeters in diameter, which is a difference of about 3/4 of an inch. This difference isn't very much, but it will likely mean that the calipers will not have full engagement on the rotor, as parts of the pad won't touch. But since it's not the main brakes, it likely won't matter as much. If someone would like me to find something that will be a better fit though, I'm certainly not going to complain. Brakes are almost always split into 2 separate systems, a system for the front and a system for the back. This adds redundancy, which is important in a critical safety system. This is important as if pressure were to be lost in either the front or rear system, the other system is still there to stop the car. Now, there's always the chance that the entire brake system could fail. Thankfully, there are 4 other methods of bringing the car to a stop. First, there is regenerative braking from the electric motor. Second and third, there is the hydraulic handbrake and the electric parking brake in the same caliper. And fourth, well, there's always the nearest tree. But that's less preferable. So, this should be everything that's needed for brakes. Now that I have everything that I need, I can start to build the bounds of where my suspension points can fit. I did my best to accurately model the hub, but I had to do a few dubious things, including measuring off the picture of the part. Then, when putting the rim on, it's best if the center of the rim is between the two bearings of the hub. This way, the bearings are loaded evenly and are not being twisted. So, let's put this on, and that doesn't look like it's in the center. Not even close. So, after some discussion on my Discord server for this project, and talking to the people at Race Software, having the center of the wheel not between the bearings is something that's actually not uncommon. Since Jeep Wranglers are used for off-roading, the hubs should be able to take it. And if I could, I would get rims with a positive offset to fix this, but they are significantly more expensive. And I don't even really care too much what they look like, as they're going to be covered anyway. If I find that I can't get 12 inches of total vertical travel though, I will definitely consider getting rims with a positive offset. Alright, and putting the brakes on. Wait, I don't have any dimensions for the brakes. I can't even ballpark this one. Okay, so in order to get accurate dimensions for all these, I am going to order the parts and 3D scan them. But that's going to be its own video though. I know. It's been a month since the last video, but I've been a bit busy since the last one. A lot of things have changed, including where I'm living and getting this guy. His name is Mouse, by the way, if you're wondering. He's a bit sleepy at the moment. It's a little past his bedtime. Now, this time I actually expect the next video to come out in about 2 weeks. I have a few ideas for the next video, but we'll see what pans out. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.